Hello, everybody. This is Evie again. Today I'm with the wonderful Billy and Monica, Kizomba and Urban Kiz. That whole topic and all the discussions that are around this topic, what do you guys think about it?
Okay, first, for the sake of the rest of the discussion, understand that we don't generally use the term urban kids because urban kids is a marketing term for one collection of personal styles. We use the term urban, okay,
Mm-hmm.
because urban encompasses all of this. So before we even get into, Kizomba urban kids, Kizomba is a dance, urban is a collection of personal styles.
You're gonna also have to distinguish the fact that we do not think that urban styles and kizomba are the same dance. I think that was something that a lot of people are like, oh, they think it's the same. It's not the same, but it's not so different that you are going to say that it's not related whatsoever. I actually have asked all of the creators, like Billy was saying, the three creators of Urban Kiss, what do you do when you dance with a total beginner who has never even heard of Kizomba or Urban or anything? How do you dance with them on a song? And all of them have basically told me a variation of you hold them close, you do the Kizomba basics, you see if they can transfer their weight. And so if your base on a total brand new day one beginner is your Kizomba base, then the urban stuff is something you can sprinkle on after you have that base.
So, as I see it, within the kind of urban community, I guess there is a divide as well between the pioneers. If I understand correctly, these pioneers danced urban while preserving the Kizomba foundation, the body movement, the Kizomba connection. Um, and then there's another kind of group of urban instructors that I guess are like a newer generation who have changed the posture, the steps, and the frame. Um, Now that group of, I guess, the newer urbanists, they're pretty massive, like in number. Am I correct? Like if you go to festivals, you're very likely to like bump into all these dancers dancing to urban music, Zouk and Tarashinha, and they almost expect uh, everybody, including the follows, to have a different posture than Kizomba. So my question is, and I guess it's mostly this question is for Monica since you're a follow. Um, how do you do it? Because if I walk into that room and all these leads, they dance that, I guess, style of urban, they expect me to have a stiff frame and to like have my legs should be like more straight and whatever in order to follow through on all of these moves. Now I tried to not change anything and it didn't really work. Moreover, I took privates with Ina, Audi, and who else? Kenny. Now, between these three, they kind of have their own styles, but they all told me the exact same thing. Actually, the first thing that they told me, give me tension in your arm. Now, what should I do? I can say, well, I don't want to. And then they can say, well, then I can't lead you. Why are you taking the private? So, Monica, how do you dance with these leads?
You're going to match the tension that your partner gives you. And so if your lead is someone that always is requiring a frame, and now Anna and Moon, they say this now, but a few, like, way, way back, they didn't really do it like this. So as their dance and their type of styles have been evolving, they've kind of changed their I guess their rules or whatnot based on how they're feeling and what they want to do. Because if you see Anna's style right now, it's a lot of just moves, a lot of moves in open position. If that's the case, you don't have a body to be in front of, then you do
Mm-hmm.
need to have the so you can actually feel what they're doing. When I dance with other urban instructors, a lot of them that have been dancing for a long time, they think the same way as me. Why do you want to tense up your body the whole time and stress yourself out for like 6 hours in a social? Makes no sense. If I need to do like a technical step, sure, then you'll tense up the frame a little bit and give a bit of a signal, but then you go back to baseline and relax. And I think a lot of maybe the newer people, or as the dance evolves, when you just want to do steps and nothing besides that, sometimes that's kind of what is transmitted, that you always have to have a tense frame because you are never going back to a more relaxed, I guess.
Basically, you tense up whenever the lead wants to like throw some sort of pattern or move on you, and to be able to like follow. But I guess that is still different from Kizomba, because in Kizomba I feel like you're relaxed all the time.
When you are learning from people, it's really important to ask why. And the reason for that is a lot of the times, and especially in the urban thing, because, and first we're going to differentiate between an evolution and a mutation. An evolution is when you know something well, you understand it, you add things to it, that's an evolution. A mutation is just changing something, meaning you don't understand something or you can't do something, you take it out. A lot of what's happening right now is mutation. And the reason is urban is, and we define it as, urban is an interpretation of Kizomba, which is really just an interpretation of Semba, with added musicality on certain types of music, gerozu, taroshin, and so forth, and an openness to creativity and fusions that, you know, when you're dancing Kizomba, they're not going to be as open to fusing other dances.
Like hip hop or something like that.
In urban, you can fuse, and that's cool. But the problem is, a fusion at its highest level means you understand two things well, and then you combine them. What's happening now is I don't know a lot of Kizomba, so I'm going to fuse whatever I did before, or not even fusing, it's just making things up. And so when you ask someone, why do you have to do this tension? I can go to any urban video, any step that they do, and I can do everything that they're doing without keeping a stiff frame the whole time and without being, well, I jokingly call it RoboCop. You don't have to if you understand body leading.
Yeah.
Apart from that difference in posture and frame which you sometimes see, is there anything else that feels different? I know, like the energy of the dance. Or when you dance urban, do you feel like you're still, when you dance urban, Billy and Monica, do you feel like you're still dancing an African dance, like at its core, at its essence?
Depending on who I dance with.
When we dance,
Together,
yes.
when you dance together.
But even if I did want to dance with NUL, yes. If I dance with if the person that I'm dancing with has a strong African dance foundation and Kizomba Semba foundation, yes, because you revert back to that the feeling, and then you add the styling on top. But the feeling is so nice. The Kizomba Semba feeling is an excellent thing that if you really actually take the time to learn it, you're not going to want to deviate so far away from it, because that's what drew you to the dance in the first place.
Yes,
What?
Definitely.
Indeed. Cut me off.
Smile.
Because you cut me off. She asks us what we feel like when we dance. We.
No, what I feel like when I dance with other people.
No. She asked what we feel like when we dance. When we
Same.
dance.
I'm just always kind of. Oh, never mind.
So to answer your question, because we keep the foundation when we dance. Now, again, depending on who you talk to, they're going to tell you, the energy is different, and I like to do this. That means that their energy is different depending on whatever song. It's an individual thing, and it also depends on the song. Because again, there is no urban kids music genre, right? It's just ghetto zouk and taroshinya. There's like some moombahton too, but it's mostly ghetto zouk and taroshinya, which is palette music that's been around for decades. If it's a song that's more gentle, maybe I want to dance more of a smoother kind of urban with the not that much different from Kizomba. it's like a harder thing, maybe I want to add a bit more ta-ta-ta in there, right? But for us is we don't like being RoboCop. So we don't like a lot of tension when we social dance because to us that doesn't feel good. And you gotta ask, for us it's constantly a why thing. Why change the posture? Why? Now, the reason most people change the posture is because they never really learned how to dance samba. They never got it. They don't have the connection, they don't have the movement. And because of that, they're just taking whatever else that they have, and it's easier to dance with this arm frame. So you get a lot of people dancing in this very rigid kind of way. And when we in our classes, we spend a lot of time teaching this body leading and stuff because it's important, but it's really hard. And it's not something that you can really tell by watching a video. So people will watch videos of urban dancers and they'll say, well, I see all these people who look this way. And they just say, oh, okay, that means I have to look this way when I dance urban. No, no. That's the result of a lot of mutation and a lot of people who are basing a lot of things based on looks and based on watching videos. And to understand Kizomba in any permutation or variation, what you see is 10% of what's going on.
And one of my favorite, like my two favorite, I guess, style creators is Curtis and Enuel. They're basically the people that I had the most influence starting out with. If you see how they dance in their style of, I guess, urban, or, you know, Curtis calls his urban kiss now, it's actually much more simple than what's kind of out there with like all these really flash tricks and all this other stuff. But I feel like when I dance with them, the connection is still there, and it's actually harder because it's the simplicity of the way you move, even in urban, in their styles, that makes it harder. So it might look a little more simple, but there's something that he does that is so hard that people keep on trying to approximate and then they can't.
Hmm. So, you know, there's a Russian expression that goes to be caught in between two fires. And I sometimes feel that you guys, it applies to you guys because you're not necessarily choosing one side. And I know that a lot of times when I mention you guys to urban instructors, they go like, oh, yeah, yeah, I know they're traditionalists, although that's not a very proper term, but yeah, they don't dance urban. And, you know, I think that a lot of like the Palops and from the Angolan side, you know, the Kizomba dancers, they go like, oh, I'm not sure. Like, I know you, Billy. I noticed you, Billy, like put on urban music and you dance to ghetto zouk and everything. So, do you sometimes feel like because you haven't chosen like one camp, you get hit from both sides? And if you do, then how do you deal with it?
It's a great question.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Because we are unique in this industry in that we started out doing what was then called French style. Okay, it wasn't called Urban Kids back then. It was called French style. And, you know, all the dancers who are now have their own, you know, different things, you know, Curtis and Laurent, all of these were called by other people French style. Now, they didn't really like French style as much because everyone in France doesn't dance that way. But, you know, because as Monica mentioned, the influences were Curtis and Enuel, right? Who happen to be good samba dancers. And this is not a coincidence. So we were, you know, and it's funny, the newbie herbs, the newbie urban and herbs, the newbie herbs.
That's his new term.
They don't
Haven't
think
heard
that
herbs yet. I've heard urbanites, but I haven't heard herbs.
Herb, we can herb.
I've seen people use herb as a verb, but I'm just calling them herb. Like the people who prefer urban now, many of them weren't around when we first started dancing what was called French style back then. So
And it's not really that
we've
bad. I guess so.
because there's been so much mutation back then. It's just a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
So like we talk about back in the day, it's a few years ago.
It's like
Yeah.
2012.
But yeah, we were dancing this before most of the people in North America. So it's funny to us when we get that. Like, you don't dance. I'm like, we've been doing this and teaching it longer than, you know, most anyone else on this continent. So we find that funny. But the reason is, in our journey, we realized that there was something missing in our dance. We wanted to be able to dance like Curtis and Enuel, and we couldn't. Well, I as a lead, I could
hit a
not.
plateau.
There are things I
Hit
couldn't
a
do.
plateau.
There was a control I didn't have.
Like we could do all the moves, but there was something we just could
Something
not
missing.
get that look.
So we started doing a little research, looking in like, okay, yeah, Curtis lives in Paris, but where's he from? He's Congolese.
Hmm.
The Congolese guy who dances samba and dumbolo. So he has African Dance Foundation. And you're also a very good samba dancer, right? These guys had some African Dance Foundation. And then they took that foundation and they added what I call seasoning. Some of the people in the New Herb clique made fun of that characterization, me calling it seasoning, but that's what it is. Styling. They added styling in various amounts, and they changed the musicality to fit the ghetto zouk and tarraxinha, particularly remixes that I think a lot of the people back then were inspired by. Now people are liking even more instrumentals, but still tarraxinha. So because we started out as more French style, the real traditionalists, looked at us askance like, these guys dancing this French style. But
Hmm.
they're like, whatever they're doing. We're no threat to them. So we weren't a part of the clique. But we weren't a threat. Then we were like, okay, so we need to get like these people we're looking up to, and we realized that it was foundation, specifically African Dance Foundation, which in Kizomba means Semba, right? And not Semba show, not
Yeah.
tricks, because tricks are not that hard to do. It's impressive in a video, and you see a video like these days, if you see the word Semba, it's all about monkey posturing and jumping around and foot flicking and hanging on the girl and doing that one Dilson move everybody does where you hold the girl's hand and you fall down like this and you walk in a circle. Yeah. That's the Dilson move. It's actually pretty cool, but it's not that hard to do that stuff. But that's not Semba. So we were like, okay, we need to go deeper. So we started learning Semba social, really deep, Semba, tribal, traditional dances, and then we got into some Congolese dances like Supus and Mutwashi.
Did
And
you
as
did
we
you
started,
train with any Angolan instructors? Like straight from Angola?
we trained with over 30 instructors, many of them
And
Angolan.
when we say 30, it's not like a festival class or like, this is like in-depth, at least 10
Private
hours of
instructors,
private
yeah.
instruction.
So because we were never a part of the traditionalist clique and then we started learning Semba, now they're like, crap, this is our thing. So that, of course, people started feeling threatened and there's politics there. And then the new urban people who came up, because we've been saying for 3 years now, and this was, in the beginning, even when our foundation wasn't that strong, we said, foundation is important, right? Even when our foundation was weak, because it wasn't like we can do A, B, and C, so we're going to say A, B, and C is right. No, it's more like we couldn't do A, B, and C, and
So we know it's right.
Right. If you want to look cool, if you want to market yourself, you can within a year learn enough steps and tricks to make cool videos, go on Portal Kizomba, or make a video and market yourself. That's not hard. But to really learn Samba, to really learn Kizomba, it takes years of hard work and investment that doesn't have an immediate return visually, right? Learning how to move, learning the proper posture, learning how to lead with your body, the connection, the fluidity, the smoothness.
Learning the music.
That takes a long time, and a lot of people aren't willing to make that investment because, again, it's kind of like a microwave mentality. So, the new urban people coming in, very few of them actually have a strong African dance base. Many of them come from hip hop or modern dance or Latin dance or ballet or something else. And because in the urban community, there's so much randomness because of the openness to fusions and creativity that you can kind of get away with whatever looks cool on video. So, Urban Kids has become what, at one point it was kind of a haven for creativity. Now it's become kind of, there's a culture of mediocrity,
to be honest.
where people are like, well, it's a style of Kizomba, or now people are saying it's a separate dance. Even a lot of these Urban Kids instructors, they're saying that it's a separate dance.
Yes.
And the reason they're saying it's a separate dance is this. If urban is not a separate dance but a style like we say,
You have to learn.
you have to learn the bass. And that means all that investment that I talked about,
You gotta do.
yeah. So if our opinion and our vision, which is not just an opinion, it's based on every major creator and pioneer and urban and our thousands of hours of training. If you are an aspiring or current urban kids teacher who doesn't really dance samba well, who has no African dance foundation, our vision, our message is a threat to you, because now it's going to hit your pockets. Because here we are saying, look, if your teacher can't dance Kizomba, we're not going to say don't learn from them, but you know, they're gonna leave you with a big hole in your dance.
So I get what you're saying about,
It's not there anymore.
you know, some urban instructors that who haven't learned Kizomba, and they're arguing it's a separate dance. I've actually stumbled up, you know, upon urban instructors who have the ability, can dance Kizomba and Samba, but for some reason, maybe that's not a question to them, like I need to be asking them that in interviews. But what I don't understand is sometimes it doesn't have to do with their inability to like learn the Kizomba foundation, but it's kind of like a conscious choice to dance it differently and change the posture and the steps. What do you guys think about it?
I'll put it to you like this. We had a conversation with Curtis, and what he said was, it's easy to impress somebody who's relatively new to the game. But people who've been around for many years, they see things that people who are newer don't see. To say I can dance Kizomba, I can dance Samba, okay, but can you teach a student how to dance Kizomba and Samba? And this is what I mean. As an instructor, if urban is only a style based on Kizomba, not only do you have to be able to dance it, and not dance it just enough to impress your average student, but dance it well enough to impress someone of the culture, number one. And two, teach students how to dance well enough to impress someone of the culture. And that's what I'm talking about. So I say this again. There is not one instructor who truly understands Samba and urban who describes them as separate dances. Not one. I said this a year and a half ago. It's still the truth. If that hurts people's feelings. So if you're going to judge a style, I would advise against judging it based on the mutations. I would advise to judge based on the creators.
Yes.
And yeah, there are a lot more mutations out there than strong foundation. Of course, because it's easier that way, right? Our way takes a lot of time, and you know, the training and the things that you do, it doesn't make your videos look better the next day or the next month. I mean, you know, when people look at us dancing, especially these the newer dancers, the way we dance looks very simple to them. But then when these hotshots dance with Monica, and the first thing they do is knee the crap out of her, we understand Samba at a higher level because we're constantly learning, and we're still learning.
Constantly learning.
To this day, we're always going deeper and deeper to understand this dance and the movement. And then the same thing with urban. Because again, as it's a collection of personal styles that are constantly mutating and changing.
And they don't even agree with each other too.
None of them. I mean, even urban kids, those three guys, they're different. I mean, now two of them are saying that Curtis is like urban kids, Kizomba fusion now, not even urban kids. And he's a creator, right? And here's another thing that you got to think about. It's a business now. And whenever there's money, politics come. And so a lot of what people are going to say and tell you is also based on money. So as I said, if you admit that Kizomba and urban are not completely separate dances, you have to invest a lot to learn. But the real investment as a teacher doesn't come from learning how to do the dance. It's learning how to teach the dance.
Yeah.
And this has happened in the Samba and also in urban kids. Because people in the urban side have become so enamored with the moves and the steps and the tricks that many of them don't understand that urban at its core is not about steps. It's just style and musicality. Urban Kids has become the term that most people are using, but there are a lot of personal styles. And Urban Kids, they've become, because of the influence of In and Moon, really step focused. Whereas Curtis isn't as step focused, he's more style and musicality. And then you have Enuel, who is closer to what we personally like to do, which is we take the samba bass and then we add more musicality, and then we add some steps here and there, but it's mainly about musicality, but still with connection. What do all these styles have in common? What is the most important thing that you need to be able to dance?
All of them.
Yeah. And that's what we talk about when we say urban. So, do you have to keep this completely stiff frame? No. Do you have to have a Robocop posture? No. Do you have to fuse? No. Do you have to do a bunch of steps? No. If you want to, you can, but it's not necessary. If you take urban and you take out everything that comes from Kizomba, what you're left with is not enough to be a dance on its own. It's just a collection of steps. Now, are there people that dance that way now? Yeah, which is, horrible. And it creates a really bad social dancing experience because it's not a new dance that was formed. It's just Kizomba, whatever your level of foundation is, and then you add to it.
So you guys have been pretty successful. You have your own festival in Cancun. You're launching a dancers competition in Houston this summer. What would you
Yep.
say differentiates you as instructors? Now, I know I can say for a fact that to whoever is watching this right now, you guys are looking at two absolutely equally accredited instructors. You're not looking at an instructor and his and her assistant. And
Yeah.
Billy is really good at explaining, verbal in words, the African movement to someone who is not from Africa. And Monica is very tactile. She'll like come up to you and she'll like point to like different areas what you need to work on. What else?
Well, one thing I want to mention is not just breaking things down to people who aren't from Africa, because many of our students are actually African.
Okay.
And we actually are getting a lot more African students these days. And, if you come from a movement culture, that means that, a lot of the times you'll be used to moving your body in a certain way, but maybe you don't know how to control your movement. You don't know how to fit it to this specific genre. So that's a big part of it too. You even get a lot of Angolan students who they're like, man, I dance, but you guys really break this down and like my technique is really improved. The people who we learn from, like particularly the Angolans, they mainly learn when they're kids from their family, from their moms, dads, aunts, sister, brother, grandpa. So it wasn't technical. And so for us, because of our disparate learning styles, when we train with a lot of these instructors, I'm an audiovisual learner.
And I have no idea what the heck they're doing at all.
So, but I'm also, I need a lot of detail to get a certain baseline. And once I have my baseline, then I can figure out what's going on. So we would take lessons, a lot of the times, again, people who are trying to figure out how to explain things to people who aren't cultural learners,
That have
right?
no.
And so a lot of the times when we train, a lot of our pedagogy and our teaching method, it's not instructor A told us A, B, and C. No, it's instructor A did A, B, and C. I figured out what they were doing visually. I tried to explain it and show Monica in a way she understands.
I finally get it, and then now once I get it, I can, because the one thing about me is that I understand the human body and the mechanics of it really well. Then I can teach anyone because I can see how the body is moving, if that makes sense.
So together,
we can teach anyone.
Complement
basically.
each other.
Literally, yeah.
We can teach anyone.
We haven't had a student ever that we couldn't teach, not one. And we're really proud of that. And for us, we think that Kizomba, particularly Kizomba, everyone in the world can dance Kizomba. And that's what we want. We want everyone. And because we have such a grand vision, this also plays into the way we do things. Because, we're not a part of this clique, we're not a part of that clique, but we don't feel threatened by anyone. One, because we have a very unique set of strengths and a very strong platform, but also because we don't operate from a scarcity mindset. And two, they take our classes and they realize that that simplicity
Ain't easy.
ain't as easy as it looks. One of the things in the urban clique that's happened so much, many of them, when I've gone to some of the classes, the way they describe Kizomba is very like kind of derogatory. Like,
So derogatory.
oh, you know, Kizomba's just easy. You just walk on the beat. You know, you just talk to people while you walk on the beat. You know, I like the musicality in urban because it's so musical. You know, that's why I don't like, you know, Kizomba and Samba as much. What they don't realize is Samba is a very musical dance. It's just they don't understand. The truth is, it's really semantics. If, as a teacher, you're teaching your students to appreciate Kizomba and Samba and you're learning it, I don't really care if you think Urban Kids is a separate dance. I don't care. The only thing I care about is, are you saying and doing things that are discouraging people from getting the proper foundation? People of the culture who are talking about defending their culture and respecting their culture, the ones who are on the up and up, who are for real, this is what they want. They want everyone to learn Kizomba and Samba. They want people to learn the music. And if you're a teacher, to teach your students to appreciate Kizomba and Samba as not only a dance that comes from Angola, but that is a part of a cultural history. So the biggest way to respect the culture is to learn. If everybody learned, there would be no issue. We have gotten thousands of people around the world, even people who prefer urban, to appreciate the foundation of Kizomba. Now, this not only benefits people of the culture, it also benefits the community, because the more people who have this foundation, the more you get that feel. And that is why Paris got so big, because you had a lot of people, many of whom happen to be of the African diaspora, who had the good Kizomba feeling, and then they added the creativity of urban, and that is how it got popular. And that is what we are building. We are taking, say,
It's like reverse engineering.
right. So take London, which is like for us the best Kizomba Samba social dancing. London, add a healthy dose of Paris from like 3 or 4 years ago when more people actually dance Kizomba, and then add a nice heaping of Lisboa, right? And that's what we're trying to build. At the end of the day, if you like RoboCop, I call it RoboCop as a joke, but if you like RoboCop and that makes you feel nice, and then do your thing, man. You know, it's social dancing. We're not here to tell you as a social dancer how you need to dance. But if you are a teacher, then you have a responsibility to teach students not what you would prefer to teach, but what they should learn, especially if you use the word Kizomba or any derivation thereof in your marketing.
All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thanks for your time.